My dad borrowed $20,000 from me to save the house. I skipped meals to help. Then one day I drove by and saw a for sale sign and a new Tesla in the driveway. At the open house, the realtor said, "The owner just bought a condo in Florida." My dad answered the door with a smile and said, "You never should have trusted me with that much." I haven't spoken to him since. But last week, I got a call from his accountant, and what I learned, I haven't told this story to anyone in full before. Not even my girlfriend. But I think it's time. My name is Eric and I live in Columbus, Ohio. I'm 34 now, but this started about 3 years ago when I was 31. Back then, I was working 2 jobs, loading trucks overnight for a shipping company and working weekends at a gas station just to scrape together a savings. I didn't have much, but I was proud of it. I was finally seeing my bank account grow slowly. I had about $28,000 saved. It took me years to get there. I didn't take vacations, didn't go out, didn't even buy a couch. My plan was to use it as a down payment for a small house, maybe even a fixer-upper. Then I got a call from my dad. We weren't close. Not anymore. We used to be when I was a kid. But my dad was the kind of guy who could charm his way through anything. Until the charm ran out. He was always broke. Always making big promises. Always asking for favors. My mom left him when I was 12 because she couldn't take the lies anymore. She called him a walking disaster in a good suit. She wasn't wrong. Still, he was my dad. He said he was going to lose the house. The bank was foreclosing. He owed back payments, penalties, and some other debts. He told me he just needed $20,000 to stop it. He'd work something out after that. Said he could refinance later, sell off some stuff. He swore up and down this would fix everything. He said, "Eric, this is the house you grew up in. Your old room is still there. Don't let the bank take it." I didn't answer right away. I sat with it for a night. Walked to work instead of driving just to think. I even wrote out pros and cons like a kid doing homework. But in the end, it wasn't logic that got me, it was guilt. He was my dad. What if he was really trying this time? So I wired him $20,000. I didn't tell anyone. Not even Amanda, my girlfriend at the time. I just started cutting back. I skipped breakfast most mornings. I stretched my groceries. I sold my old game consoles. I even let my car insurance lapse for a couple of weeks to catch up. I figured it'd be tight for a few months, but then I'd rebuild. That was the plan. 2 months later, I was driving near his neighborhood. I wasn't going to stop by. I just happened to be in the area, picking up something from Facebook Marketplace. But when I drove past his house, my childhood home, I saw a for sale sign planted right in the yard. It looked brand new. And parked in the driveway right where my mom's old Camry used to sit was a shiny black Tesla. At first, I thought I was seeing things. I circled the block, slowed down, looked again. Nope. For sale. Tesla. Same address. I didn't go up to the door. I didn't even stop. I just kept driving, thinking maybe there was some mistake. Maybe he was behind again and had no choice but to sell. Maybe the Tesla belonged to someone else. A guest. A neighbor. Something. But the next weekend I needed answers. So I went to the open house. I dressed casual like a buyer. No emotion. No red flags. The realtor greeted me at the door with a bright smile and handed me a flyer. Said the owner just bought a condo in Naples, Florida. He's looking to move fast, already got his place down there. I froze. Naples? Florida? She said he paid in full. No mortgage. Cash deal. I walked through the house. The walls had been repainted. My old bedroom had been staged with fake books and a lamp that didn't even plug in. It didn't feel like home anymore. It felt like someone else's property. Then I saw him. My dad. He came around the corner holding a glass of wine, wearing a Hawaiian shirt. Tan. Relaxed. He looked better than I'd ever seen him. He spotted me, grinned, and walked right over. He didn't look surprised to see me. Not even a little. He leaned in and said, "You never should have trusted me with that much money, son." Then he patted my shoulder and walked away like I was just another visitor. I left without a word. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just drove home and blocked his number. Deleted every message. Every email. It was like someone took a sledgehammer to whatever was left of my trust in him. I told Amanda a week later. She was furious. Not just at him, at me too, a little. She couldn't believe I gave him that much. I think that moment broke something between us. We drifted apart after that. She moved out 6 months later. Said she couldn't be with someone who always carried his past around like a backpack full of bricks. That brings us to last week. I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. Didn't answer. They left a voicemail. "Hi, this is Daniel Klein. I'm an accountant representing Mr. Richard Marvin. Please call me back. It's regarding a financial matter." I almost deleted it. I figured it was about unpaid taxes or another scam, but something told me to call, so I did. Daniel Klein turned out to be legit. He'd handled my dad's books for years, or tried to. He said my dad disappeared a few months ago. IRS was closing in. Fraud investigation. Misreported income, shell companies, fake expenses. He sold the Florida condo. Moved the money. Nobody had seen him since. Then Daniel dropped the bomb. My dad left a trust. Not a will, a trust. And I was the sole beneficiary. Not him. Not some girlfriend. Just me. The trust held $230,000. All clean. Transferred legally before the fraud stuff kicked in. The government couldn't touch it. It was mine. No strings. Just there. And now I don't know what to do. Feels wrong to touch it. Like it's blood money. But it's also mine in a way. My dad never paid me back. But maybe this is how he tried to make it right. Or maybe it's just one last trick. One last screw you wrapped in a ribbon. I haven't decided yet. But I do know this. If I take that money, I'm going to use every dollar to destroy the last pieces of the legacy he thought he could control. I didn't touch the trust money right away. I let it sit there while I kept working my regular job. Loading trucks, same hours, same aching back, same routine. Every night I came home, made the same cheap pasta with canned sauce, and stared at the login page for the account Daniel set up. One night I clicked in, just looked at it. $230,000. It didn't feel real, but I kept hearing his voice. "You never should have trusted me. That wasn't guilt. That was pride." That line was him bragging. I couldn't let it go. I started digging. I wanted to know what he'd been up to between the house sale and the Florida condo. Daniel helped. He had access to some of the old files and emails. Turns out, my dad had been running a fake consulting business, billing companies for strategic reviews and offering expedited loan matching services. It was all crap. No licenses, no work done, just invoices and bank transfers. And a lot of those people he scammed? Small businesses. Family-run shops. Immigrants who didn't know the system well enough to fight back. I found one woman, Sonia, who ran a cleaning company. She'd paid him $8,500 after he promised to help her expand into a government contract. She lost everything. Had to sell her van. Her son dropped out of community college to pick up extra shifts. I called her. Told her who I was. At first, she hung up. I called again the next day, said I wasn't asking for anything. Just wanted to make it right. She told me everything. How he showed up in a suit, told her he'd make her the next Latina millionaire, then ghosted her after she paid. That was it for me. I started making a list. Every victim I could track down. There were 12. At least that I could confirm. A pizza shop owner in Youngstown. A retired vet in Dayton. A single mom with a lawn care business. All of them had paid my dad thousands for promises that went nowhere. I started paying them back. Quietly. Through Daniel. I told him to keep it anonymous. Halfway through that list, I got a call. A blocked number. I let it go to voicemail. Then I listened. "Eric, it's me." It was him. My dad. "I know you're probably angry, but I had to disappear. It was the only way. I left you that money because I wanted you to start over. Not to waste your life chasing ghosts. I know I was a shitty father. But this is my way of making up for it. Use it. Build something better." Then silence. No number to call back. No way to trace it. I sat there shaking. Not because I missed him. Not because I forgave him. Because even now he thought that counted as redemption. He left a mess behind. Bodies, basically. People whose lives he wrecked. And he thought a pile of money would wash it clean. That night I made a decision. I wasn't just going to clean it up. I was going to burn every bridge he ever tried to build. I hired a PI. Told him to find my dad. Not for closure, but to make sure that if he ever tried to scam again, ever tried to smile his way into someone's trust, I'd be there, waiting. The PI's name was Ron, ex-cop, worked out of a strip mall office near East Broad Street. I didn't tell him everything, just enough. Said my dad was a con artist, disappeared with money that wasn't his. I wanted to check on him. Ron raised an eyebrow but didn't ask more. 3 weeks later, Ron called. Your old man's in Arizona. I was confused. Not Florida? Nope. Condo in Florida was sold, like you said. But he resurfaced in Tucson. Real quiet. Goes by Rick Marston now. Bought a house cash under a shell company. Lives in a gated retirement community. Plays poker twice a week. Real low profile. I asked Ron for photos. He emailed them that night. There he was. My dad. Or Rick. Smiling. Sitting by a pool with a drink in hand. Talking to some woman at least 20 years younger. It hit me in the gut. Not because he looked happy, but because he looked completely unbothered. Like he'd just changed costumes. Switched lives. Left the rest behind like old receipts. I told Ron to dig deeper. I needed to know how he was living. How much money he still had. Who was helping him. Turns out he had a new girlfriend. Her name was Denise. Divorced, mid-50s, decent money from her ex's pension. She didn't know who he really was. Thought he was a semi-retired consultant. Sound familiar? I wanted to warn her. But I needed proof. So I flew down to Tucson. I didn't tell anyone. I booked a room under another name, rented a car, drove past his gated community a dozen times. It was all golf carts and palm trees. The kind of place that looks like a brochure for a better life. The third day, I spotted him. Coming out of the clubhouse with Denise. Laughing, hand on her back. I followed them. To a diner. Then to a strip mall bank. I watched him walk inside and come out with a thick envelope. Cash. Had to be. That night I called Ron. Asked him how far we could go legally. He said, what are you planning, exactly? I said I want to dismantle the lie. Piece by piece. The next morning I put the plan into motion. I had Daniel draft up statements for the 12 people my dad had scammed. We listed dates, payments, even signatures. Every one of them had agreed to be named. After I started paying them back, they were eager to help. Then I walked into the community office of the retirement place pretending to be an out-of-town relative wanting to surprise my dad with a family scrapbook. The receptionist smiled. Gave me a directory. Oh, Rick's very well liked. He volunteers on Tuesdays. I left a package with her. Inside, copies of every complaint, every name, every dollar. I made sure Denise's name was highlighted in the list of recent connections. 3 days later, Ron texted me. He's gone. Left overnight. No goodbye. Denise was furious. She called Ron thinking he was a friend. Said Rick. My dad emptied her savings. $38,000. Told her it was for a joint investment. I asked Ron if she wanted to press charges. She's thinking about it. But she's ashamed. That stung. Because I knew that shame too well. But that wasn't the twist that hit hardest. That came 2 days later when Daniel called again. There's another trust, he said. It just showed up in probate. Smaller, but strange. I asked him what he meant. It's not in your name. It's in the name of a child. Jason. I paused. I don't know any Jason. Daniel sounded uneasy. Born in 2015. Mother listed as Melissa Durant. Address listed in Akron. Do you know her? I froze. Melissa Durant was my ex. We dated back when I was 24. She left town suddenly after a messy breakup. Never said why. I never knew she had a kid. Let alone a kid my dad knew about. Now I needed answers. And if I was right, my dad hadn't just stolen from strangers. He'd stolen from his own grandson. I didn't sleep that night. Jason. Born in 2015. That would have been months after Melissa left me without a word. We were together for almost a year. She was quiet, kind, but guarded. I always figured she just got tired of my long work hours and my family drama. Now it all made sense. I called Daniel the next morning. Told him to send everything he had, every document, every date, every dollar. The trust wasn't huge, around $32,000, but it had been untouched. Created 2 years ago by my dad. Payments labeled as support and future growth. The money was clean, just sitting there. I called Melissa. Took me 2 days to get her on the phone. She answered, wary, like she didn't recognize my voice. I told her everything about my dad, the trust, even the recent scam in Arizona. She went silent. Then she said, "You need to see Jason." I drove to Akron the next day. He looked just like me when I was 10. Same eyes. Same awkward grin. Melissa didn't hold back. She said my dad found her after she left me. Showed up at her work one day with a smile, acting like a friend. Said he wanted to help her raise Jason. Said I was too unstable and she shouldn't contact me. He sent her money. Enough to keep her quiet and far away. She thought he was trying to make up for the past. She didn't know the full story until now. That trust? It wasn't kindness. It was a tool. A leash. Another way for him to control the damage without owning it. I was done. I had Daniel send a letter to every victim we hadn't paid yet. Then I filed a report through the FBI's Elder Fraud Division with all the evidence, photos, statements, banking records, even the trust documents. But I didn't stop there. I drove back to Tucson. Ron met me at the hotel. He said my dad was laying low in a cheap motel outside Phoenix, using a fake ID again. I went there. I knocked. He opened the door. And for the first time in years, I saw fear in his eyes. "Eric, no. You don't speak. You listen." He tried to step back. I stepped in. I told him everything. About Jason. About Melissa. About Denise. About every person he stole from and lied to. I told him the FBI would be here soon. That they had enough to put him away. He dropped into the chair, breathing hard. "You don't get to disappear this time," I said. He didn't argue. He didn't cry. He just sat there, defeated. Before I left, he asked, "You ever going to forgive me?" I said, "No, but you'll have time to think about it in a cage." And I walked out. 2 days later, the feds picked him up at that motel. Fraud, identity theft, wire fraud, and more. It made the local news in Tucson. Some quiet old man who turned out to be a con artist. They didn't know the half of it. The $230,000 trust? I used the last of it to finish repaying every victim. Then I dissolved it. The $32,000 in Jason's trust? I added to it, quietly, every month. I never told Melissa what I contributed. I didn't want credit. I just wanted the next Marvin to have a real chance. Maybe I should have seen it coming. Maybe I shouldn't have handed over that money in the first place. But I'm not ashamed anymore. I was raised by a liar. But I'm not him. Not anymore.